I was in a place in my relationship that felt so damaging and so destructive, and it felt really hopeless. It felt like this was like a permanent characteristic of mine, and that felt really hopeless, and it just didn't feel like there was room for growth. The fact that this thing has actually been able to change and transform is so crazy to me that I want to be able to talk about it so that other people can feel that hope. Maybe this helps you, maybe it helps your partner. But these are the things that helped me. I need a tissue. I don't even really know where to start with this video. I think this video might be like largely unedited because there's so much I want to say and I don't even know how to rearrange it all, so I think I'm not going to try to, but it feels really important to talk about. And if you're used to just seeing interior design videos on my channel, then maybe this video doesn't make sense to you. But I used to make a lot of kind of self-help videos, but I only make those videos when I feel like it's a topic that I can confidently speak to in depth. And it's taken me a long time to understand what I even wanted to say about this. So what I'm talking about in general is just not having secure attachment really in your romantic relationship. I think that can change, you know, depending on the relationship you're talking about and depending on the person you're with. But for the little background and context, I was in a long-term 6-year relationship that, you know, was complicated, as almost all relationships are. And then about 2 years later, I entered into a relationship with my now boyfriend, Justin, who's a wonderful person. And almost as soon as we started dating, I became overwhelmed with anxiety. I would say I identified that I had like very anxious attachment, which everyone has a little bit of that, but like it became really extreme. It looked like panic attacks, and I'd rarely had panic attacks in my life. It was panic attacks multiple times a day, many, many times a day. And it was actually hilariously anxiety in 2 directions. Oh, so silly. All at once anxiety that this person could not possibly really want me. They could not possibly really want to be with me. And also, at the same time, anxiety that they would be doubting my fidelity. And first of all, like, how could both things be true at the same time? But I had anxieties like a double whammy in both directions. For sure, the former, I think, was tied to a deep lack of self-worth, and the latter was very directly tied to a previous relationship I had where I was always questioned, doubted, accused, and I had no idea like how much damage there was until I entered a new relationship. Living as a single person between those relationships, I was like really happy and really stable. I didn't have panic attacks. I felt so functional. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't anxious. I wasn't anything. So to be hit with the wall of this when I entered a new relationship really worried me. And it sent me on this huge spiral of like, well, I was fine before. So like, maybe is this my gut feeling? Is this me reacting to, is this a bad relationship? And I could not sort it out. And things got like worse and worse to the point that it was several panic attacks every single day. And it got so extreme that I reached the point where I didn't even want to be with Justin anymore, despite how much I loved him and how truly like obsessed I was with him. It was so painful. It was so painful to be in such anxious agony all the time that I was like, the intellectual side of me knew that he is great and that it probably wasn't his fault, but it's still, I was like, it doesn't matter. I still can't do it. I think I would rather be alone. And that was a shocking thing to feel for obvious reasons, but also in a past relationship I was in, I remember my partner saying that to me at the time. I remember a partner telling me that the anxiety just wasn't worth being with me. And I guess the universe is weird. You know, years later, I found myself inhabiting that position, this position I didn't understand before, and I didn't know what to make of it. But I did eventually realize that if I didn't change something soon, I was going to completely destroy the relationship I was in with Justin. I needed to figure out, is this my gut? Do I need to get out? Do I want to be alone? Or am I going to absolutely run this good thing into the ground? While editing this video, I'm realizing that everything I'm saying probably sounds truly insane to some people who haven't experienced this. And I want to acknowledge that, like, it sounds insane, and I felt insane. That was the problem. I felt insane in the fact that I genuinely could not tell if I was in the best relationship of my life or, like, the most dangerous. Like, how was I not able to tell? I felt absolutely insane, and when I described this to people, a lot of people were just like, why are you insane? Why are you so crazy? And that response was even more unhelpful because it just reinforced to me that I couldn't trust my own judgment. And that was a big part, I think, of what played into this dynamic. And it's a big part of why I want to talk about it for people who've gone through a similar thing, is I had like such a complicated history and past experience that basically I had eroded all of my sense of confidence in my own judgment. And I was so afraid of being hurt again. And so I was so on the watch, so on the lookout for, oh my God, I don't want to be in a bad situation. But I had also eroded my own confidence in my judgment so that I could not trust my judgment anymore. And I was just like looking for signs and red flags everywhere, but also unable to trust anything I felt. And I think that's what landed me in this position. So I just wanted to say that I know this sounds like pretty hard to wrap your mind around, probably for people who haven't felt this way. And so I will say, like, if you don't understand the feeling, then this video probably isn't for you. But I do know that there's a lot of people who've been in this position before of not being able to trust your own judgment. And it is a tricky video to make and talk about, knowing that I was with someone who was really great and doing all the right things. So I also want to emphasize that this confusion was not a reaction to my boyfriend's actions or behavior. It was a reaction to things that I had been through and the trust in myself that I had lost and the time I had lost before and the time that I didn't want to lose more of it. So this was kind of what landed me in this struggle of being totally paranoid and wanting to know for certain, but also totally unable to discern anything. And the stakes felt really high because if I didn't figure it out right, like if this relationship was a good thing and all of this anxiety was kind of a just a farce, honestly, then I was going to throw away like the best thing I'd ever been given. Or maybe this was my gut telling me to run for some reason. And I'd already been through a relationship where I gave years and years and years to a painful thing, and I absolutely was not going to do that again. But like, which one was it? The stakes felt really, really high, and I felt so hopeless. And meanwhile, with every passing second that I couldn't figure out which it was, in the meantime, I was doing more and more damage to this relationship. Since then, there have been, I've gotten so much help, and I've learned so much, and I've made so many changes, and Justin has made changes with me. But to me, like, this video isn't really a video about relationships. It's a personal problem. This is like a personal struggle, and it's nice that it's a personal struggle that a willing partner can also help with, but like, it was a personal problem. And I felt like I found a lot of answers and a lot of help. So that's what I want to talk about here. You know, I want to make videos on here that basically like help people the way that I wish I had help. The videos I wish I had to watch. I'm going to sneeze. I'm also a little bit sick. We're keeping the sneeze. So I'm making this video not as an expert on the topic, but as someone who has learned a lot. I was in a place in my relationship that felt so damaging and so destructive. And it felt really hopeless. It felt like this was like a permanent characteristic of mine, an immutable trait. And that felt really hopeless. And it just didn't feel like there was room for growth. And so the fact that this thing has actually been able to change and transform is so crazy to me that I want to be able to talk about it so that other people can feel that hope. And hopefully, whether this applies to you or the person you're in a relationship with, I kind of think everybody falls somewhere on this spectrum. I think I kind of hit a very extreme version of it. Maybe this helps you, maybe it helps your partner, but these are the things that helped me. Okay, yeah, I hardly even know where to start with this because this was such a mess. It felt like such an entangled mess. Some of the major things I did first take the situation really seriously. I'm going to commit myself to owning this issue and figuring out what I need to figure out. I'm not going to be passive about it and just like let my partner in my relationship suffer and let me suffer as well. Like I took it seriously. But some of the external things I did, I also was with a partner who was willing to be patient in navigating this with me. And I think that's really important. I think it would have been perfectly understandable if Justin was like, listen, I don't have the emotional or mental capacity to go through this with you right now. And then it's not the person for you at the time, or it's not the time. So I think being with the right person who has that capacity and willingness to try, within reason, I think is a huge part. I also was already in individual therapy and continued that. And also eventually Justin and I saw a counselor together, and that was hugely helpful. That was like huge at a certain point when things felt so entangled that anytime we tried to communicate through something, I actually felt like we were just miscommunicating more. And I was like, we need a witness. We need a mediator just to help translate, because it's like our languages were off. The translation was off. It wasn't even fights. It was just like we couldn't understand what the other was saying. So that became hugely helpful in just like a few sessions. We did like 5 sessions. When we went in, it felt like we would never get out of this mess. And then within 5 sessions, the counselor was like, I don't think you need to come in anymore. And we were like, dope, we don't want to. We feel good. We feel really great. It's not feeling like a problem anymore. It helped a lot faster than I thought it would. So I really encourage that. I think people are afraid of doing that, but I think having a partner who's on board is a really big deal. It's like a big green flag. It was great. I really, really recommend that. And again, I was with someone who was like willing to do that with me. So those were the external kind of factors. And then there was a lot of internal work and like revelations I had to have on my own. I think the number one tricky step, which I have seen subscribers ask about a lot, is trying to differentiate, like, is this my gut trying to protect me, or is this an anxious attachment that's kind of, false in a way and just damaging? And it did feel hard to suss out. I do think it takes time. Like, when you meet someone new, it takes time in any relationship to decide, you're gathering information. That's not an instantaneous thing. So there's like a gathering information period where I think it's okay to be watching and learning and like weighing the information you get. But then at a certain point, I had to stop and ask myself, like, what really could Justin be doing differently here? What would I actually want to see him do differently that would make me feel more at ease within the realm of reason? And there's always little things. Like, we can all improve communication, or maybe we text more, or maybe we text less, or maybe you work on your listening. Like, of course, we all have things that can always be enhanced and improved on, but on the whole, like, there really wasn't anything, there was nothing massive that I needed him to be doing differently. It's not like, hey, you stay out till 4 a.m. every night, like, where are you? Where are you at? It's not like, oh, you drop off the face of the earth for a couple of days. Could we change that? Or like, what's going on? It wasn't like, you never tell me your feelings, or you never express your feelings for me in actions. It was like the love was there, the information was there, the commitment was there, the words were there, the actions were there. Literally, what else could I really want? There was nothing I wanted to change. I actually didn't want him to do more. He already did so much. And so it kind of left me feeling like, okay, this is not a gut reaction, trying to signal danger. It's something deeper in me. It's like a kind of anxious attachment. And when I sat and thought about it, I realized the thing I was really afraid of was being made a fool. I was really, really afraid of waking up one day, like 10 years from now, and realizing that it had all been a lie, that this person was living a second life, or they had another family, or they had 4 other phones, or just like the whole thing had been a lie. And unfortunately, the thing is that I personally know like 5 or 6 instances. I personally know like 5 or 6 people that's happened to. I personally know them. And that stuff happens. And I'd also been through a very long relationship very recently, and I didn't want, like, I wanted to know now. I don't want to waste 10 more years. That's how I felt. I don't want to waste 10 more years before I find out I'm a fool. Like, I did that, I feel like. I don't want to do it again. I had such a fear of being made a fool. But eventually I realized that, like, the only thing that was making me a fool was to be handed something good, something that, no, it doesn't have guarantees, but like something that was good enough to take a risk on, something that was good enough to give my vulnerability to. I was given that, and I was throwing it away. That's how I'm a fool. I was so determined to not like look like a fool that I was being completely foolish in this other way. And I think I had this idea that I could just eliminate all risk from my love life. I'm just going to be so on top of it and so vigilant and so paranoid and so like scrupulous that I will eliminate all risk. But the truth is that you can't. Love and relationships of all kind always have a risk. You know, on the macro level, you can be happy with someone for 20 years and then, yes, find out that they had another family. Like, it literally happens. Nothing is guaranteed. You can be in love for 30 years and then they decide they're not in love with you anymore and they don't want to be with you. Like, it happens. There is not a way you can, like, guarantee it forever. It's not about guarantees. It's about, like, is this worth taking a risk on? Is it worth taking a wise gamble on? It will still be a gamble, and I can collect data and information, but like at the end of the day, it's still going to be a gamble. And the way I was going about things, of trying to be like super vigilant and figure it all out and not let anyone make me a fool, I thought I was eliminating all risk, but I was actually putting myself up for a very different kind of risk, which is that I was going to squander anything good that came my way. Like, they both have a risk. I was going to be so shut down and so closed off and so unwilling to be vulnerable that I was going to lose out on the benefits that come with being vulnerable, that come with opening yourself up to the chance that, yeah, you could be made a fool. So there's a risk both ways. I wasn't really eliminating either. I was just incurring one a lot faster. So once I kind of decided, like, I am being a fool. I am being a fool. Nothing is guaranteed, but this is something that's worth taking a risk on. The first, like, actionable thing that I did was that you have to break this cycle. If this is something you struggle with, it becomes very cyclical. It can be a very vicious cycle. I think the more that you act on your anxiety, it can be like the more unstable the relationship becomes. And the more unstable the relationship becomes, the more anxiety you feel. It really is very cyclical. So I knew that if there was any chance of changing the cycle, I had to step out of it. I had to step out of the cycle like long before it felt natural to do so. That like these feelings of anxiety and fear are still here. And I hoped that eventually I could like build a sense of security, build more faith in the relationship, but also just like faith in myself. And I was like, yeah, it takes time to build that. And in the meantime, I don't have that. But I'm going to start making these changes anyway. Mechanically, I'm going to start doing things differently than the way I've been doing them, even though it's going to invoke fear, because following the things that keep me away from fear haven't been working. So let's just change the cycle, basically. I heard someone say that you can often change what you receive by changing what you put out. And I do think that's very true. You know, the more I act with trust and I act with steadiness, the more warmth and security I receive, and vice versa. And I think a lot of people who struggle with an anxious attachment in a relationship, the go-to is usually reassurance seeking, you know, checking in and being like, are we good? Is everything okay? Are you mad at me? Do you hate me? Are we fine? Are you mad at me? Are we good? Is it okay? Are you mad? And I think there is space for some of that. I think it needs some adjustments, but in general, it's not great. In general, seeking reassurance from something external to yourself from this other person kind of just reinforces that, like, they own my well-being. I don't own it. I'm not in control of it. I can't take care of myself. The only way I can know that I will be well and I will be safe is if they give it to me. And I do think that's one of, like, the giant revelations I had, learning that being in a relationship is not guaranteeing that you'll never be hurt, but learning to trust yourself, that you're going to be able to survive whatever happens. Whether it's a massive betrayal or a little everyday hurt, you are capable of feeling hurt, feeling disappointment, and figuring out how to survive it. And I think when you do too much external reassurance seeking, it kind of just makes things worse. It's not even that it prolongs the cycle, it just makes it worse. You can feel the damage you're doing, and then you feel more anxious. Okay, this video is sponsored, and I'll tell you what, there's about nowhere that makes sense to put a sponsorship in this video. So what if this, I'm trying to think, what if this was the transition right now? Or what about this? How about this? Listen, this video is sponsored by Bombas. If you're working on your anxious attachment this holiday, I can't explain it, but it starts with socks. You just have to take my word for it. If that doesn't feel like it makes that much sense to you, yeah, it's just because you haven't tried the socks yet. Let me tell you this. Come on, I never know how to show you my feet. I never know how to show you guys my feet properly. This feels correct. Bombas socks are what I'm giving everybody for Christmas this year. Family, if you're watching this, please turn away. If you do not know what to get somebody for the holidays, Bombas has like a million gift boxes. My mom is obsessed with Bombas socks, so she is getting an entire set of merino wool half calf. I love these pairs because they have a little bit of ribbing. It's just the coziest. Justin is getting his own gift box. These are so freaking cute. It's ski themed. He loves to ski. Oh, come on, come on. Come on, they're so sweet. I think these are the cutest things I've ever seen. Such a good holiday gift. So thick, so cushiony. So cushiony. It's very cute packaging. Let's hear it for the packaging. I also got a set for myself because that is what sock love is all about. I got this set that comes in 3 colors. So I'm doing my burgundy because I'm a good fall girl. Bombas makes just the softest, comfiest socks you'll ever wear. I feel like it's hard to totally picture it before you've worn them, but that's the kind of thing where it's hard to go back to any other kind of sock because it's just a big upgrade. Great to put in a stocking, great to put on a gift topper, great to give as a whole set. It's also one of those things that's really high quality and is gonna last a long time. And those are the kinds of gifts I love to give people, especially to those who won't give that to themselves. Give them the nicer, high quality item that is gonna make them feel a little luxurious this holiday. And remember, with Bombas, every item purchased equals 1 item donated. They're a really great company that I love to support. So if you're looking for a great holiday gift, look no further. Go to bombas.com/Caroline and you can use code Caroline20 to get 20% off your first purchase. And now for an effortless segue back into anxious attachment. Okay, so let's talk about the number one thing that I had to work on. The first thing you have to do is basically learn to embrace uncertainty. Did I say embrace? Okay. Embrace uncertainty and embrace discomfort. And I think this is like the most, like one of the most powerful things anyone can do is to learn to get comfortable with discomfort. It's the only way you can grow through anything. Name something you want to grow through, a skill, a relationship, a flaw, anything. You cannot avoid discomfort. And there is something called ROCD, like relationship OCD. I think it's like a subcategory of OCD, and I don't know who gets that diagnosis, but there was a lot of qualities of it that just like sounded like what I was feeling, just like very obsessive thoughts about my relationship, obsessively negative thoughts to the point where I was afraid of my own thoughts. Like I could be having a perfectly normal day, and if I even just said, if I even just thought like, ooh, I could start thinking negative thoughts right now, that alone is like, I haven't even had a negative thought yet, but that revelation that I could start having a negative thought would give me a panic attack because it could spiral so quickly. I was literally afraid of my own thoughts. And for any kind of OCD, exposure and response prevention, ERP, is considered the gold standard. I'm reading right now, is considered the gold standard treatment for OCD, including relationship OCD. So exposure therapy, basically. And whether you have OCD or not, I don't think it's relevant. I don't know that I do, but I think the theme of exposure therapy applies to any fear you're trying to overcome. So when I'm having scary thoughts about my relationship, does this person love me? Are they going to leave me? Am I making a bad decision? Am I going to be made a fool? Am I overlooking something? Did I forget something? Am I bad? Am I lovable? I can't remember. I do my anxious behaviors like reassurance seeking or having a meltdown or asking, is everything okay? I do all of that so that I can avoid the fear. And the whole exposure therapy theory is that we expose you to the fear. Give yourself as much exposure to that fear as you can, or at least when the fear comes up, don't run away from it. Embrace it, because that is the only opportunity you have to outgrow it. You cannot outgrow it without encountering the fear. And so a mindset shift I made was that every time I got like activated and freaked out, instead I thought like, awesome, this is the opportunity, so cool, thank you so much, I'm so excited to grow through this. Because without those opportunities, you basically can't outgrow it. It's kind of like wanting to get buff at the gym, but anytime an exercise feels painful, you stop. It's like, well, the fact that it hurts a little bit is the way you grow. It's literally the way you grow muscle. You won't grow muscle if it never pushes your muscles. So you can't just run away from the hurt every time. You kind of have to chase it. And so my advice is like when those triggering moments come up and you're like, I'm feeling so anxious. Excellent. It's an opportunity. And if you're watching a video like this, you're probably into, the self-help, self-growth, self-development stuff. And so know that that is your opportunity. That fear moment is the opportunity to work on the thing you want to work on. So for example, one thing that was always really hard for me was anytime Justin would go away long term, like be out of town or traveling or something, it was always hard for me. And when that hardship hit, at first I just start freaking out until I could step back and see oh, I'm freaking out because this is the thing that's hard for me and I want to work on it. I want to work on building security for myself when he's away. I'm not going to ever be able to work on that unless I embrace it while he's away. I'm not going to crumble. I am not going to start a fight. I am not going to self-implode. I am going to vulnerably and painfully sit through the discomfort of this. And next time it will be a little less scary. One of the most helpful things I did was starting this just like a notes page, kind of like a diary entry that I titled Things I Thought Would Matter But Didn't. Things I thought would matter but ended up not mattering at all. So things for me, maybe Justin's away on a trip and I sent a text and maybe he doesn't respond for a while. And then I go on this whole, the spiral starts and I'm like, oh, that must have been a weird text or a rude text, or maybe I didn't say the right thing, or maybe I wasn't supportive enough way, or maybe I didn't acknowledge enough of what he had said before and now he hates me and oh my God, it's over and now he's on to me and it's done. Put it on the list, bitch. Things I thought would matter but didn't. I sent that one weird text at 3:06. Maybe it was weird or maybe I said the wrong thing. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of freaking out about it. But instead of reassurance seeking, I'm going to sit and watch and be uncomfortable, and I'm going to see what happens on the other end of this. And every time that I sat and watched, on the end of it, eventually he'd be back on the phone and everything would be fine and I would get a natural reassurance. It's I still got the reassurance, but it's not the same as reassurance seeking. It's waiting and sitting and knowing I can be uncomfortable and still see how this plays out. And then that reassurance means so much more. And the next time that I freak out that I said the wrong thing or I did one wrong thing that's going to blow up this relationship, I have some data points to reference of my own. I can look back at this list, things I thought would matter that didn't, and be you know what? I felt 100% certain then too that I'd ruined this whole relationship, and I was wrong, and I was wrong these other 500 times too. So I know I feel pretty sure I ruined it this time, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I didn't. And it gets easier and easier every time. I cannot recommend this enough. Things I thought would matter that didn't. I put giant things on there. I put tiny things on there. It's a crazy looking list. No one's allowed to read it. It's so insane. And the entries on that list became less and less frequent. So helpful. And to me, this is part of the process of building that trust with yourself, building the security with yourself. It's a block at a time. And it takes a while, but there is a cumulative effect where it gets easier and easier. And each time I was willing to sit through the discomfort and trust 1% that there would be some reassurance on the other side. And then next time trust 2%. And the next time trust 5% that there is reassurance and comfort on the other side. It just got easier and easier. I just keep moving the camera back and forth because I don't think I'm going to do any like edits. So these are the crops you get. You're getting manual crops. Another tool that really helped me. Where am I in my notes? Was this app I used? I think it's called the Clarity app, but it's basically a cognitive behavioral therapy like workbook kind of. I liked using this app when an anxious thought pops up, like I haven't heard from Justin in a few hours, so I've decided he hates me and it's over. So that's my thought. That's my like fun time thought. And this app this is not sponsored. You can like input the thought into the app and it makes you categorize it. Like, am I catastrophizing? Am I magnifying the negative? Am I minimizing the positive? Am I jumping to conclusions? What's the unhelpful behavior that's going on here? And then it walks you through, like forces you to walk through, what are some alternative explanations? What are some alternative ways to looking at this? What is a more reasonable or more likely explanation for what's going on right now? And I don't know, I'll do that all the time, usually like late at night when I'm in bed. And I'm just like hanging out with me in one horrible thought. I will open up the app and kind of walk through. It's like a 5-minute exercise, and I almost always feel improved afterwards. And in general, I think you just have to recognize your triggers. So for me, being apart is a big trigger. I think I just basically don't have object permanence. Object permanence is basically what babies don't have. Like, if you like show a baby a ball, but then you like hide the ball under like a blanket, they just think the ball is gone. They think if they can't see it, it's not there anymore. It's called object permanence, and you don't develop it, I don't know what age, but you develop it later in life. And it's why it's fun to fuck with babies. But it makes it less fun for fucking with me. And I think I have very little object permanence in my relationship. Once the thing is out of sight, once the sentence, I love you, everything's okay, once the sentence is done, I'm like, do you love me? Is everything okay? Because you're not saying it right now. I don't have object permanence. So being apart is definitely a trigger. But there's other things that are triggers for me too. Advocating for myself can kind of set me on an anxious spiral. Just me simply advocating for myself, advocating for my own needs, saying something I need, having a difficult conversation, but a healthy one. Doesn't matter how healthily I do it, doesn't mean how calmly and kindly and reasonably I do it. It makes me really uncomfortable. It felt so unnatural and so scary. And like if I asked for something I needed, or I stated some way I was hurt, or had a come to Jesus talk, they'd leave me. So I had to learn that like the discomfort and total fear and anxiety that comes after I healthily advocate for myself, it doesn't mean to take a step back. It doesn't mean to take back everything I said. It doesn't mean to go and grovel. Just sit in it. It feels uncomfortable. That's okay. That's what happens when you advocate for yourself right now, because you're still building that trust that it's okay to ask for things. I also identified a bunch of triggers that like I think are completely unnecessary and I don't want them in my life. For me, stupid things like location sharing, read receipts. I think people use these a lot of the time thinking it will build their confidence in their partner, but to me it doesn't. Like having a location, Justin has my location because he doesn't really struggle with these problems. So great, you can have my location. I don't care. But for me, to have your location or to have a read receipt, I mean, I know sometimes I read someone's text and I don't respond to it right then. But if I see a read receipt and no response, I'm not in a place right now to handle that well. It's just, it's not helpful information to me. It is not helpful information. It just like spurs me off on more anxious thinking. And so I don't have his location. And besides, to me, like having someone's location, that would not help me build trust. That's not a trust building tool to me. It's tracking. Tracking is not the same as trusting. In fact, I would say they're really at odds with each other. Trusting is not tracking and just being like, I'm gonna take this leap of faith anyway. So tracking someone is not trust building to me. So I just got rid of those triggers for myself. But on a deeper level, something a therapist helped me think about when those anxious moments come up is to ask myself, how do I want to carry myself? How do I want to be through this? What do I want my legacy to be through this moment? On the macro level and on the micro level. You know, let's say even we know for sure this relationship falls apart, because it could for a million reasons. But say for sure this relationship falls apart. You know, maybe we both fall out of love. Who knows? Whatever. I want to be able to look back on these hard moments and say, I'm proud of how I navigated them. I'm proud of what I said and what I didn't say. I'm proud of moving forward in good faith and trying my best. So when those moments crop up, I could get real weird. I could get really annoying. I could do the reassurance seeking. I could get to self-destructive. I could cause a fight. I could blame him for something. Or I could do all these other things. So I don't get to control what happens in the relationship. I don't get to control the narrative of us or how he responds or how he treats me. But I do get to control how I move through this. What do I want that legacy to be? And that helped me a lot because that felt like an active thing that I could guarantee. That's something is in my control that I can work on. This was weirdly hard to sort through. And maybe it'll sound obvious to say, but I had to figure out, obviously, like the root fear underneath all of it. I think I got really distracted by fears about being made a fool, fears about being cheated on, fears about being abandoned. And it kind of felt like those were the things I was afraid of. And at some point it came up in therapy. I don't know, I was having some anxious day and my therapist was like, so like, what's the actual fear here? You're afraid he's going to cheat on you? And I was like, no, not really, because the fear comes up 100 different ways. Sometimes, like on some days, maybe that was the fear, but like ultimately, no. The fear is just, for some reason, I'm determined I couldn't possibly be good enough to make him happy. Like, I couldn't possibly be enough for him. And maybe that will show up as I'm not enough for him and so he cheats, or I'm not enough for him and so he abandons me, or I'm not enough for him and so he leads a double life. Like, I don't know, but but that was the root fear. I couldn't possibly be enough for this person, so where's the ruse? Like, where's the lie? What's he actually getting out of this? Because I know it's not connection with me, or at least that's how I feel. And I think you have to do more therapy after that. But even just being able to name that it's like, it's actually really not about a fear of cheating or a fear of being abandoned. It's just this fear that I couldn't possibly be good enough. I couldn't possibly be doing it for this person. So like, why are they really here? Huh? Tell me that. I think getting to that root fear was like weirdly hard. It was easy to get like distracted by all these different like forms it can take. Taking my Alka-Seltzer. Hello, Mike. Listen to the sprinkling of this Alka-Seltzer. Maybe I should do some ASMR. Just some heavy breathing for you guys. Some nasal congestion. I asked subscribers what topics they wanted me to cover in this video, and one thing people brought up, which is such a good question, is like trying to figure out, what are you supposed to share with your partner about the struggle and what do you not share? Because the reassurance seeking gets into like, sometimes you're sharing too much. And I think when you do that a lot, you see the damage it does and it makes your journey harder. So it definitely can do damage, but there's also the things that you have to share. I think step one, actually, I've said step one like 12 different times, so I feel like all these things happen like simultaneously and differently and not at all. So I really don't know how to sequence this video. But one major, this was an early step, was at first I was keeping all of this struggle to myself because A, it felt ugly, it felt embarrassing. Also because in a past relationship, I'd been on the receiving end of this. I had been the person who was like accused or not trusted, and I'd been the recipient of an anxious attachment, and I knew how damaging it was. It was really, really damaging, and so I was like really determined not to put that on Justin. And so instead, I just kind of kept it all really secret. But eventually my therapist was like, you know, I don't think you're ever going to believe that he loves you if you continue to keep this giant part of yourself a secret. How the hell are you going to know that he accepts you when you haven't shown him all the parts of you? I remember my therapist told me, she was like, I don't think I fully believed my husband loved me until he saw all the ugliest parts of me. And it really resonated because even in the moments when I was like, okay, Justin does really like me. This dude likes me. He likes me. I could still be like, yeah, but that's because he doesn't know about all these sides of me. And if he knew about those, he probably wouldn't like me. So I guess he hates me. It's like I could undo every loving assurance because I hadn't shown him the rest of me. There was a giant step up top where I had to like be very honest, brutally honest about what I was struggling with. I think I also felt in my head that like, maybe if I say this ugly thing about myself, then he'll believe it. Maybe if I tell him I have such low self-worth that I don't think you want to be with me, maybe he'll start believing I don't want to be with you. You know, maybe I'll convince him. And I think there's a difference between like saying a really hard, open, vulnerable thing. Yeah, there's a difference between doing that and doing it vulnerably and taking ownership for that versus like attacking your partner with it. There's a difference between being like, I feel so insecure right now, I'm really struggling, I'm just gonna flag that to you, versus being like, you've never loved me, you never loved me, I know you think you're too good for me, you know what I mean? So I think a lot of the parts that you do need to share, I've learned it's not so much what you say, but how you say it. And when I'm feeling anxious, I don't always flag it to him now. I try to sit through it and just like see what happens. I have this mantra of do less. I think a lot of times when I get anxious, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to say this, or I'm going to act this way, or I'm going to do this thing, or I'm going to send that text, or I'm going to voice memo that, I'm going to do something. And something about constantly doing, it feels like, well, I'm just controlling the problem instead of healing through it. And so I have this mantra of do less, do nothing. Do nothing. Okay, I feel bad. I feel insecure. Okay, well, usually I would scream about it or destroy something or have a meltdown. But what if I just continue to be in this room with him and I'm anxious? What about that? What about that, huh? And you start to see it pass. It passes. It does pass. And I still sometimes reach those points where I want to communicate it to Justin. And so if it feels like a point where I'm capable of telling him I'm feeling really anxious or really insecure, or I'm a little uneasy right now, and I feel confident that I can say it the right way, which means not putting it on him, not as an attack, but opening it up and like letting him in on me, letting him in on it. So it's like we're kind of here together. It can actually become a thing that brings you closer. Sometimes the way I do this is like I make it silly. We have a joke where I'll wake up in the morning sometimes and roll over and just be like, I'm feeling annoying. I'm feeling really annoying right now. And that's like, I'm feeling clingy. I'm feeling needy. I'm feeling insecure. Like, I feel like I'm going to annoy you. And it makes him laugh, and then we both laugh, and it's actually this opportunity for closeness then, and like, oh, we're in on this joke together, and it brings us closer, and it immediately lets me feel that connection, not because I asked him to tell me everything's okay, but because I like create a way for us to bond, kind of, and that connection is the best assurance. So a lot of it is, not what you say, but how you say it. A lot of things can be said, a lot of impossible feeling things can be said just with how you say it, not putting it on the other person, not making it their problem, but more letting them in on who and where you are in that moment. It's very different. It's a huge adjustment. I want to talk about 2 mindset shifts that really helped me. One giant one was in learning to distinguish what I actually am responsible for and what I'm not, what I have agency over and what I don't. So for an example, one thing that often sends me spiraling is if Justin and I are apart for a while and I start just at like 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, I'll just be like, I bet he doesn't love me anymore. Nothing's happened. And I'm just like, that breeze just makes me feel like he probably thinks I'm annoying. So first thing I always do is anxious brain runs through all the things in my entire life I could have ever possibly done wrong to cause this. And then sometimes I run through the whole list and I'm like, well, I didn't really do anything. Let's see, all that I've done since the last moment when I knew for sure Justin loved me, all that I've done is be the best partner I know how to be and continue to have my personality. So the truth is that Justin may have fallen out of love with me in that time. He might have decided he doesn't love me anymore. That's not impossible. But if that's the case, I really don't have any agency over that. And I don't own that at all. And in fact, that would mean he's no longer the partner I'm looking for, because the partner I'm looking for has 2 qualities. They love who I am, and they have the steadfastness to be able to choose this relationship over and over. And it is a choice. So step 1, if he decides one day he doesn't like my personality anymore, that is his right to choose. And it also means that he's not the person I'm looking for. There's nothing I need to feel anxious over. Truly, if I get a text from him next and he's like, hey, I have been feeling annoyed by you. Just your sense of humor is annoying to me now. I don't know why I used to like it, but I don't like it anymore. That's going to suck a lot, but I don't have any regrets. There's no anxiety to be had because that's my personality and I'm looking for someone who likes my personality. So that kind of takes care of that thought. And then I have the other thought about like, well, maybe I've been too difficult. Or maybe he fell in love with someone else, right? Maybe he's just tired of choosing this. And that's also, it happens. But the person I'm looking for not only loves me, but has the steadfastness to continue to choose this thing. And we both choose it. A lot of people don't have that quality, unfortunately. I think a lot of people, they can love you one moment and if it's hard, they don't want to be there anymore. And okay, in a lot of ways I get that. But that just means it's not the person I'm looking for, because all relationships have the hard thing. They all do. And I'm looking for the person who, within reason, is going to choose to do this with me. And Justin should expect that from me too, that I'm going to choose to do the hard things with him. Not because it's convenient, but because we made a choice to choose and commit to each other. And actually a lot of subscribers wrote in asking about how to deal with this feeling that you're the burden in the relationship. I think a lot of people who are struggling with their anxious attachment and feeling like I'm such a burden to my partner for having this. And I get that feeling. And here's what I learned. I learned that every single person on earth has their burden. Every single person. One of my major burdens is that I'm trying to grow through this anxious attachment. And it's hard. And Justin does not have to be down to do that with me. He has the right to be like, you're a great person, but I can't handle this. That's his right. But Justin is going to have his own burden. And I've learned, talking to a lot of people about their relationships, that a lot of anxious people felt this way in the beginning of their relationship. They felt like my partner's totally whole and healed and stable and fine, and I just have this messed up stuff I'm dealing with. It's so one-sided. And then after a couple years, things kind of switched. And it took a few years for their partner's problems, their partner's burden to really come to the surface. I think different people's burdens show up at different stages in the relationship. But I do know a lot of people who struggled in that first year or 2 years a lot, and their partner seemed so stable. But their partner's problems really only reared their head in a strong way because maybe they weren't attachment related. Maybe they've got the attachment thing down, but they have this other thing they really struggle with, this existential thing or whatever it is. And it you have to get deeper in before that comes up. But everybody has their burden. And the truth is, and I feel this truth now, that there are some major things I struggle with. And I'm lucky enough to have found somebody who is willing to wade through those with me in a supportive way. And he has major things he struggles with. And they're struggles that I have the capacity to do my best to support him with. And they don't look the exact same and they don't come up at the exact same time, but we've all got our burden. I promise you. We just all do. There's no person who's just like, I'm just healed. I figured it all out. I'm just fine. I've never met the person. I feel like I have to touch on jealousy because I think, a lot of people commented asking me to talk about jealousy. And I will say that for all my struggles, jealousy, I don't know why, jealousy is not a main struggle for me. So you may want to go to other people to get a better perspective on that. But I will share kind of my mindset about it, which is that basically the truth is if somebody wants to cheat on you, you can't stop them from cheating. You cannot. I've known people, we all do. We have known people who they're married. This idea that, once I marry them, I'll feel secure. No, because married people can cheat. Once I live with them, we'll feel secure. Still no, people can cheat. Once we have a kid, that'll secure it. No, people cheat then too. So it happens. And I think if someone is determined to cheat, you're not going to stop them. I don't feel inclined. I don't know why. It's not something I stress about that much. I think there's a little kind of dismissive, defiant part of me that's if you want to be with someone else, good fucking riddance. As low as my esteem can be, I'm you want to be with someone else? Great, get out of my life. There's this deep fear of being not good enough, but also once it's clear that a guy wants someone else over me, I'm get out of here, you idiot. It's once I get rejected, I can actually stand behind myself, is what I'm realizing. This is a real-time revelation. But yeah, basically once someone actually rejects me, then I'm you're an idiot. What is wrong? What were you thinking? Get out. Scram. If they choose somebody else, then it's it's important information. Great. Oh, so you're actually not the person. I thought you were the person I was looking for, but it turns out you're actually not because you don't really value me quite enough. So thank you for eliminating yourself. That's kind of how I feel about it. But yeah, and kind of what I said before, the things I'm looking for is someone who's enamored with me and someone who has the steadfastness and the discipline to choose this thing over and over because it's a continuous choice. And also someone who really values what long-term commitment can bring you. I think that's one of the best things about the partner I've found is we both are really obsessed with having a long-term committed monogamous relationship. I don't have to sell him on the benefits of committing to that. I don't have to sell him on the benefits of, wanting to have what I happen to want, which is a monogamous relationship. He really, really wants that. So finding that person who just knows, I think appreciates the value of that in the same way that you do. And if they don't, then they're not the person you're looking for. I would say what this journey, what this struggle looks like today for the most part, because it's still something I have to be I have to like maintain my fitness, my security fitness on this. It's something I still work on and I put like intentional thought to. And Justin and I have come up with like our own little couple rituals and like silly things and ways to check in. Like I said, we talked to a counselor together, and that was really helpful in figuring out like what's destructive about how we navigate this now. What do we want to change? What feels constructive? What feels acceptable to both of us? And now when either of us gets anxious, excuse me, I don't know what that was. That was a weird sound in my throat. We both do a really good job of telling the other person in an honest and vulnerable and not attacking way. So either of us might text the other and just being like, hey, I'm just feeling a little anxious right now. I wanted to check in. We're all good, right? Or like, I'd love to hear your voice in a voice memo or whatever. And in a way that is reassurance seeking, but it's so infrequent now that it feels okay to go to. And we do it for each other. You know, Justin has his own anxiety too. Or I might flag him that I'm in like an overarching hard time or day or two or what I might need, but he'll offer support. And then other than that, it's mine to own. And that helps build confidence in myself that I'm going to own it and I'm going to navigate it. And it just always passes now. One of my subscribers commented when I was asking for input on this video and said, my biggest struggle is dealing with the uncertainty and impermanence of the relationship. I know and trust that my partner loves me now, but the fact that it may not last, that there is no guarantee from a change of feeling, a change of vision for the future, a breakup, makes it hard for me to feel secure. And to that, I would say, yeah, you're right. Like, there isn't a guarantee. There's no such thing as like a relationship with a 1,000,000% guarantee. Doesn't matter how long you've been together, there's always that leap of faith. Always. And it helped me a lot when someone said that to me. Basically, like, you don't get to vet this thing 10,000,000%. You don't get to. It's not possible, and that's not even the thing you're looking for. All relationships will require some degree of a leap of faith. And if you try to vet it 1,000,000%, the thing that you are going to do is erode it so that there's no trust and no connection left. In the pursuit of total security, you will erode everything that you have. That felt very true to me. And I can see it looking at other relationships that they all take a leap of faith. Hopefully the leap feels eventually very manageable and you don't have to think about it that much. But it's still a leap. And it's not your job to hold out for a relationship that has a 1,000,000% guarantee, because you're never going to have that. I think it's your job, I think it's my job instead to watch and learn and be honest with myself and honest with another person enough that I can say, is this something worth taking a risk on? Is it worth gambling on? And if it is, then I'll go forward in good faith and the rest is out of my hands. And so I better get busy taking some well-informed risks. And I will say that there have been two major benefits of going through all of this in my relationship. And I'm not somebody who says like everything happens for a reason, but I do feel that there is both good and bad that can be found in most things. In most things that happen, I think there are both positive effects and negative effects. And you can decide to see just one or decide to try to see both. And in this situation, there was like this huge gift of healing I got to have since a previous relationship where, as I mentioned, I was receiving someone else's anxiety. Someone else was really anxious in the relationship, and it was essentially taken out on me, and I received a lot of that, and I carried a lot of that, which is not to say that I didn't have my own responsibility in the relationship, because I absolutely did. I had my own flaws and my own failures and my own contributions, and I didn't know where to draw the line. I just like took on everything. I took on as much as was given to me, as much as was put on me, and a lot was put on me. And it wasn't until I occupied that anxious position firsthand, I stood in those shoes with this like problem, this challenge that was given to me, that I realized that I could make a different choice than the choice that was made back then. Like, I had a choice, and I didn't have to take this out on someone else, and I didn't have to put someone else through pain infinitely. That, like, no matter what someone else's role, I could still take ownership for my own struggle and not continue to submit someone else to pain that I don't want to handle. And in being in that position firsthand and like being able to make a different choice, I feel like I have so much more compassion for my past self now that I didn't have before. And I don't know how I ever would have felt that compassion for my past self had I not like found myself standing in the position of someone who was in the position to, like, you know, put Justin through a lot of pain if I wanted to. I could really put him through a lot of torture and a lot of pain if I wanted to. So that's something that I never really foresaw. But it definitely was a gift, you know, to be on the other end of it. It's a big gift. And then, of course, there's the gift, like, between Justin and I, that we've been through something difficult. You know, this is a difficult thing to grow through. And we move forward confidently now, not because everything's been so easy and we're just, like, hoping things will continue to be easy and, like, hoping that, like, nothing hard will be thrown our way, but actually because we've been through things that weren't easy and we both still choose it. And we've got to see each other through an uneasy thing. We got to see each other through an inconvenient time. And that feels like so emboldening. Yeah, showing those ugly sides of yourselves and knowing that the person is there, not because they haven't seen the ugly sides, but they've seen them. It makes that feeling of choosing even stronger. Like, wow, you really want to be here. It's a really good feeling. This has kind of been a podcast. If you like this kind of content, I've talked about it a lot on my actual podcast, so you'll probably enjoy the actual podcast. I'll link to it. But it felt like it had a place here too. It's been a big part of my life, and ultimately I want to make this video because I think I needed the video. You know, like a year ago, I wanted to have this video to watch, and I didn't. I had to go and, like, find all the information on my own and pay a lot of money in therapy and, like, read a lot of books. So I hope this is a little more concise, although I will also link books and stuff I read. And I wanted to make this video because I'm, like, really proud of this. It was, like, changing through this has been one of the hardest things I've ever done, and it felt impossible to do. It felt like, yeah, this static thing about me. That's just going to be a problem. And that wasn't the case at all. It was changeable. Unbelievably. And there's more changes that need to come, but I feel really proud of myself and of Justin. I feel grateful to Justin. I feel like I need to say that. Thank you, Justin, for being such a gift to me. And I'm also going to thank me. I thank myself. Wow. You know that? What was that speech where Snoop Dogg was like, I like to thank myself for believing in me, for supporting me, for never giving up on me? Yeah, I would like to thank Snoop Dogg for this, and I would also like to thank myself. I feel proud of this one, and there's no guarantees, but I feel happy to have learned a lot and tried a lot of things and have gotten a little bit better. And that's about it. I'll see you soon.